Hey, welcome to Jeremy Snell's recruitment training. If you're looking to deepen your capabilities, if you're seeking to improve your productivity and your performance, this is the channel for you. In every episode, I will unpack practical and tactical things that you can do to help you to think with greater clarity, make better decisions, and ultimately make more money. Feel free to subscribe, feel free to like and to comment. And now let's get on with today's topic. Hey, and welcome to another edition of the podcast with me, Jeremy Snell. Today's pod is all about the subject of time management. In fact, I would change that and I would say it has got very little to do with time management and everything to do with taking control of your own behaviour. Probably the most common thing that I'm asked about that is related to recruitment, whether it is with junior consultants, those who have a little bit more experience, or even the business owners who have a list of priorities of things that they want to achieve. It's all about time. Jeremy, how do I get more done? How do I get more of these things off the to-do list so that I can move my business forward? How can I become more productive? And it feels as though the quest is like finding corners of the world where there may be 2 hidden hours that no one else has used. The reality is you get to the end of the working week, you have no surplus, all of the hours from the beginning of the week to the end of the week have gone, and you've either done what you've done, you've not done what you intended to do, and things carry forward into the next week with the perpetual to-do list which never seems to shrink and always seems to get bigger. So really I wanted to share some tactics, some ideas, maybe even just some general moans about time management, and keep on referencing that time isn't the thing, it's our behaviour, right? It's the things that we choose to do and the time that we allocate to the task that is required that makes the biggest difference. There are only 3 things that we have in our control. And when we accept that these are the only 3 things that we have in our control, then this is everything that is required to get good at managing time. Because the time will just pass, tick tock, tick tock. What we can make conscious decisions about at a frequency that is totally decided by us is what we do with the things that we can change. And the things that we can change are this, people. We can change what we choose to focus on. So it may be you're choosing to focus on a specific task and then something else happens that we might call a distraction, and your focus moves from the task to the distraction. And every time you get distracted from the task, on average it takes us 10 minutes to get back into the headspace of being in that state of flow when we were on the task in the first place. And the funny thing about distraction is we are far more prone to being distracted if the task we are doing, we don't fully buy into its purpose or don't fully enjoy doing it as a task, and therefore we are open and our radar starts to look for suitable distraction. You know, we could be about to do our tax return and we begin filling in the tax return, and then we quite enjoy being distracted by friends on WhatsApp or on social media because it is so much more enjoyable than the task of doing our tax return. So what we choose to focus on, we do have control. We could turn off that social media. We could put our phone into airplane mode. We could find ourselves in a quieter location where there is 0 distractions. But we've got to want to do the work, right? And if you really want to get it done, you find a way. If you don't really want to get it done, you're in danger of finding an excuse. Like, it wasn't my fault that she sent me that message and said, let's go for lunch. And I hadn't seen her for a long time. So I felt really bad saying, no, I'm doing my tax return, because what does that make me sound like? So I agreed to go for lunch. So we create a sales routine to ourselves to be able to justify our acceptance of the distraction to do the thing which maybe had more, I don't know, dopamine associated with it, rather than the thing that probably, only probably, may have been more important. The second thing that is totally in our control is how much energy we put into the task. And we could begin a task with focus, but if we're not putting enough energy into it, the task may start to drag. And as the task starts to drag, we find ourselves becoming less productive. And as we become less productive, we become open to distraction. And once again, we're off chasing squirrels, when in reality, we should have been writing that advert or creating that mail shot or doing those business development calls. And then the third thing that is totally in our control is what we choose to accept. Our level of acceptability of self, our level of acceptability as to what we're seeking in terms of an outcome. So the only three things in our control: what we choose to focus on, how much energy we put into it, and what we're willing to accept as a result. And that may mean that you or I, or perhaps others in our teams, may start a task where they've decided to focus on doing some sales and some BD, and they put 55% of their possible energy into doing it as a power rating. So they start to dial people at a rate of 6 or 7 phone calls per hour. They struggle to be able to get hold of people. So they get hold of one person every 90 minutes. And after 3 hours and 2 conversations, they start to make judgments about the marketplace, saying, people don't pick up the phone at the moment, or no one seems to be answering right now, or cold calling doesn't work because I've spent 3 hours doing it and only spoken to 2 people, and one of them told me they weren't interested. So all of their perceptions, which becomes their reality, is their unconscious assessment of what they choose to focus on, the energy that they put into it, and what they're willing to accept as results. If they'd have been a little more focused on their behaviours, and perhaps they had increased the level of energy that they were putting into it per hour, they could have doubled the input rate, so have dialed 12 people in an hour, have achieved the same results as it took them 3 hours to be able to generate, and maybe feel more positive about 2 conversations in 60 minutes rather than 2 conversations in 180 minutes. But what they failed to recognise, that although 3 hours had passed on the clock, what was really in question was the level of energy, the level of focus, and what they were willing to accept as being the standard of behaviour that they would consider to be good enough for the work that was being done. So I hope everyone's with me in the way that I'm describing this, right? I'm not necessarily being judgy about little Bobby and his sales activity. I'm merely highlighting the relationship between the 3 things: what we focus on, the energy we put into it, and what we're willing to accept, and how that starts to manifest itself as behaviours that I would consider to be the root cause of poor quality results from a time management perspective, that often leads people to getting to the end of the day and either saying they didn't have time to complete what they were doing, or they didn't do task B because they were too time poor, and therefore today there wasn't enough time to do some sales. The reality is there was enough time. The truth is they chose to do something else. They chose to put their focus somewhere else. So as long as this all makes sense to help you, and to help you to be able to help others with what I would prefer to call behaviour management rather than time management, it all starts with having total clarity on what is the goal, like what is the purpose of today? What do I want today to deliver for me in terms of outputs? Like, what would a good day actually look like? And when I start to think about the purpose of a day, I can then think about, so what become the priority tasks that should become the non-negotiables that are agreed between me and me? Because when I've got clarity on what the non-negotiables are, I can start to write a more meaningful to-do list. My experience of looking at people's to-do lists is they tend to be an extensive list of shit that needs to get done without necessarily enough thought about the 2 most important elements that would make a to-do list become a more powerful document. When we write a list of things as a to-do list, it can sometimes be a brain dump. And as it becomes a brain dump of stuff that we know that we need to get done, and we say to ourselves, I need to get this shit done today, we sometimes find ourselves getting to the end of the day and not all of that shit has been done, so some of it carries forward to tomorrow to begin tomorrow's shit list. But we started the day saying this is all of the stuff that needs to get done today, but at some point during the course of the day we decided to change tack to change instruction to self. So the things that really help to be able to turn a to-do list into a more powerful tool. Number one is making sure that having written a to-do list, we've created a form of prioritization. Because it may be that the thing which is 8th on the list is actually more impactful or more important than the thing which is 2nd. So writing our to-do list as a list and then scoring as a priority a grade 1, a grade 2 or a grade 3. You decide what 1, 2 and 3 mean for you, and you decide what you're willing to accept having completed by the end of today, whether it is all of the 1s, the majority of the 2s, and the 3s will start to look after themselves once the 1s and 2s have been covered, or the 3s get delegated, or the 3s get outsourced, or the 3s just get crossed off the list, because we could all have a to-do list of 250 things, but we need to make sure that we're focused on the things which are the highest priority. So if we have a to-do list which has been ranked based upon priority, and we then review the to-do list again to create an estimation of time, when you start to estimate how much time it is going to take, and you know that you are willing to sacrifice or invest, it depends what it feels like at the end of the day, right? You decide, I'm going to invest or sacrifice 8 hours of my life to do this thing called work, and here's a list of stuff that I want to be able to fit into the confines of the 8 hours that I call work. You may have a to-do list which is 11 hours long and you're now trying to get it done in 8. The better you get at being able to create an estimation of time, the more likely it is you have a manageable to-do list which is of the most relevant and highest priority things that will make the biggest difference to the success of your day or your week or your month. And you can start to ensure that you put maximum focus into the things that matter. And when you put maximum focus into the things that matter, and you know that the task is going to take 30 minutes, and you then set a timer to be able to ensure that you are working at the right speed to ensure that it is being delivered in the time that has been allocated, you may actually find you get more stuff done. And you may actually find that you get more stuff done to a higher standard because you are giving it the time that it deserves based upon your estimation, and you are giving it the attention that it deserves based upon your assessment of priority. And when you start to deliver both of those things, you start to become more productive. The other thing to think about is to think about what you're doing which is most impactful on your future. Now in recruitment, when we talk about our future, there are some people working in recruitment who aren't thinking about next week because they're too busy trying to get through this week. And if we're forever living in this week and ensuring that this week delivers what it needs to deliver, it's far more likely that the week becomes a repeated week because we are only ever seeking to be able to ensure that we are managing the time that has an impact on these 5 days. The most impactful tasks that you can do will help you to have an easier next month because of the things that you do this month. Some of the simple things that I know that you know are really important in recruitment, like the quality of your aftercare with candidates and clients, like the investment that you make in terms of segmentation of your database to be able to create more relevant and contextual messaging and outreach to existing customers, to lapsed customers, to nearly customers, to prospects, to ICPs. All of that segmentation takes time. All of that work takes an investment of focus, and it requires some energy. But because it may not impact on what's happening this week, it becomes one of those tasks that I'll do that when I've got time. I'll do that next week. That's a really good idea. I'm definitely going to do that not today, because today I've got all of this shit that I need to get done. And if we don't focus on doing some of the things that make next month easier, we'll arrive at next month and it will be no easier this month than it was last month, because what was next month has now become this month, and this month we've got another next month, and right now I'm focused on getting this stuff done this week. So if we could start to look at how we apportion our working week as if it were a budget, just the same as you get paid. And when you get paid, you might apportion an element of your wages to do something like pay mortgage, and apportion an element of your wages to do something like buy food. Start to think about your budget of hours. Like if you're turning up with intent and you intend to sacrifice or invest 50 hours of your life to your business next week, and you were to take 30% of that time, so 15 hours, and start to look at the most impactful things that you could do to work on your business rather than simply in your business. And if you're a recruiter and you don't own the business, but you think about your desk as being a business, and you take 30% of what you're choosing to invest in turning up to work next week, 15 hours of time, 12 hours of time if you're doing a 40-hour week, 7.5 hours of time if you're doing a 25-hour week, but you take a third of your week and look at what are the most impactful things that I could do that would be easy to put off until next week, that would have the most significant impact on making next month easier or next quarter easier. You know, I worked with a firm recently where I spent time with salespeople on their sales floor, and I sat with one of the top billers in their firm. In fact, she is the top biller in their firm, and she works half the hours of many of the other people in the business. She works 25 hours a week. And one of the things that she said to me at the very beginning of us sitting down to talk about how she works is a thought process that she goes through. She looks at every activity that she's going to do. She looks at the clients that she's reaching out to. She's looking at the jobs that she's working on. And she asks herself two questions. Is this realistically going to make money? And when will it turn into money? And she plans all of her time revolving around the answers to those two questions. And when I sat with her, she had already sorted out what she knew she was going to be producing in terms of fee production for that month. She felt as though she had the following month covered because of the work that she'd won on an exclusive and retained basis, and she felt as though she had 40% of her pipeline for the following month. So she knew, what I'm working on now is finding 60% of the pipeline for the month after next, and then looking for my clients that are likely to be the clients that I'm invoicing in the quarter after that. Like when she's got that clarity on what she's looking to do, when she's able to now create a structure for her week in the confines of 25 hours to be able to do that, and is taking 7.5 hours of her week and allocating it to the most proactive tasks that she can do to be able to do that, she still has 66%, 70% of her working week to be able to deal with all of the niceties of the reaction to unforeseen events, the agility that's required to work dynamically in a chaotic type of an environment that recruitment is, and ensure that she is getting shit done. But the amount of shit that she has to do every day is far less because of the time that she is allocating to make sure she is doing the most proactive tasks. So think about your 15 hours, think about your 12 hours, think about the most proactive things that you could do that would make the biggest difference to ensuring that next month is better than this month, that next month is easier than this month, that next month you are building your experience that allows you to become more productive or more efficient or more powerful at your job. Because something that I share with people early in their recruitment careers when I get the privilege of working with them then, is to help them to really understand that if you want to have a fruitful, easy future, you need to make sure you are working hard now. And when we do the hard work now to invest in our future, we will reap the rewards in the future. If, on the other hand, you would prefer to have an easy now, you would prefer to be taking the path of least resistance, you would prefer to allow yourself to be open to all of the fun and the distractions of things that can be going on around you that take you away from what you know is more impactful and more purposeful, an easy now creates a hard future. And not everyone is thinking about their future when they're making decisions for today. They're making decisions for today based upon today and this week. So however you're consuming what I'm sharing here, I'm hoping that there are a few things here that are sticking with you. Number one, truly embrace the fact that the three things that we can control are the only controllables. What we focus on, the energy that we put into it, and what we're willing to accept. Some of you may be focused on the right things and putting the right energy in, but accepting less than you deserve. Some of you may not be putting enough of the focus in on the right tasks without enough energy, and you're getting what you deserve, but you're moaning about the results that you're not getting from the work you haven't done. And you're starting to feel that life is unfair. but ultimately you're not putting in the calories on the things that you know that you should be focused on that'll make the biggest difference, because you're perhaps still selling to yourself that there must be an easier way to do this. And you're drinking the Kool-Aid of somebody else who's trying to sell you something that is designed to help you to build your business quickly and easily without having to do the work. It just isn't there, right? It's not going to happen. And then the other thing is to think about your allocation of time. Like next week is a budget. You set your budget, 50 hours, 40 hours, 25 hours, the time that you're going to rock up and invest in work. And then take 30% of it to do the proactive stuff, the things that would really move the needle to make your future easier. Many of those things will be some of the tougher tasks, some of the things that are easy to sell to ourselves as stuff I'll do when I've got time, or stuff I'll do when I have enough time. And that rarely occurs. So we find ourselves stuck in a bit of a rut. And as we get stuck in a rut, we slowly start to dig a grave, because the rut becomes deeper and deeper and it becomes more and more difficult to be able to get out of it. And then the third thing to think about is, if you are a to-do list person, to-do lists themselves, they're not fundamentally broken. They're a good way to be able to take everything out of your head and get them onto paper. What brings them to life is setting a set of priorities around them, such as 1, 2, 3, and creating an estimation of time so that you can be more realistic with yourself as to how much energy and effort it's actually going to take to be able to strike that single line off your to-do list. And I reckon if the task is going to take more than an hour, maybe it's actually 2 tasks. Maybe you can break it down as a division of labour by process so that the enormity of it doesn't put you off from doing it. Because as Mary Poppins said, a job begun is a job half done. So folks, you know where to be able to find me. I know I've had a bit of a ramble and amusing here about what started as time management, but the reality is it's far more about behaviour management. Take from this what you wish, and I will, I'm sure, see you, talk to you, get together with you again on another episode of the pod in the very near future. Hey, thank you for watching. If you want to continue to get access to more high quality training and coaching ideas to help you to stay inspired as a recruiter, make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe, and check out the description below for relevant links to tools, frameworks, and other ideas to keep you moving forward. And I look forward to seeing you on another one very soon.